brought you to Nashville, Tennessee, dealing with housing. Take about 3 or 4 minutes, 3 minutes for that. Then when you get through that 3 minutes, you'll pick up on him and tie into what he's talking about. Listen to what he has to say. Are we ready? Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. JSettles and Mr. Carter Abels, and the topic is shelter for the homeless. Mr. Abels, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we would give you an opportunity to say something about the great state of Arkansas that sent you to Nashville, and it'll give you an opportunity to sort of bring in the kind of information dealing with shelter for the homeless. And then Mr. Settles will sort of pick up on what you have to say, and then we'll be able to deal with this 8-minute segment from that perspective.
Sure. So I was, fortunate to grow up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, so just about an hour northwest of Memphis. So close to Tennessee my whole life. Wound up coming to Nashville in particular to go to Belmont University here, and got connected to the social entrepreneurship program there, which is a really neat program in kind of launching people towards addressing social issues. But talking about housing and what we do, one of the things that is pretty staggering is just the immense need for this kind of housing. I mean, every year in Tennessee, 16,000 people are released from prison. And most of those people, when they're released, if they don't have a support system, if they don't have a job or family to take them in, they're essentially given the clothes on their backs, a one-way bus pass, and maybe $20 to $50. So if you don't have a support system in place, homelessness is inevitable, or those people wind up back incarcerated. And so the challenge that AFSIS House faces is how can we take in as many of those guys as possible and give them a chance to get on their own feet, to become contributing members of society, to find stability, and to re-enter society as productive citizens.
And so, James, you've been involved with this organization for many years, have you not?
Yes.
And what have you found in terms of your experience, looking back over all of the things that you've done so far? What are some of the things that you'd like our audience to know this morning about some of the challenges that you have to face? Certainly, you're trying to deal with incarcerated individuals, 16,000, I'm told, out of the system each year, and certainly you can't meet all of those needs. But what are some of the needs that you're able to meet?
Well, I really believe that one of the things that's a plus for AFSIS House is when men learn better, they actually do better. When men come to AFSIS House, one of the first things we do is help them get their ID, because when you're homeless, you really pretty much have nothing. We help them get ID. We have classes that are centered around job readiness, job retention, financial literacy. And in the evening time, the men are inundated with classes like critical thinking, relapse prevention, that's understanding addiction, anger management. Well, anger management covers a lot of stuff like family reunification. And we have been able to see that when people are impacted with those type of life skills and putting them in an environment where they can grow and be the best that they can be, that it's staggering how people actually do better.
And so in a real sense, you've got a large number of success stories that
Correct.
You can deal with, having dealt with this organization since what, 2003. And so you've got a large number of examples of individuals who've been able to come there and sort of get their lives back together.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so, Mr. Abels, in terms of your situation, what do you do exactly at AFSIS House?
Sure. So James handles all the program. He's our executive director. I just help to try to keep the lights on. So I do the behind-the-scenes fundraising and trying to bring in enough money to ensure that we can serve the guys as well as possible.
What kind of money do you think that you need in terms of dealing with this? I think that you work dealing with grants and other kinds of methods to bring. Do you find that there's a community of individuals who are out there willing to help you do what you do, or do you find that it's difficult to raise enough money to do what you're doing? Speak from a financial point of view in terms of what you're doing.
Sure. I mean, we're fortunate to have access to some grant opportunities to help what we do. You know, there's unfortunately a stigma sometimes around guys that are former offenders. But we believe that no one is too far gone to start over and find a life of fulfillment. And so we've been fortunate to find people in the community that believe that and who can come alongside us and help empower these men to do that. And so we fundraise with individuals, we do grants. Right now we're trying to raise $100,000 by November to build a new house, which we're pretty excited about, being able to grow our capacity.
And so you've already got structures already completed, and what you're getting ready to go into a new building phase. Is that what you're saying? Why don't you say something about some of the structures that you already have completed?
Sure. So we have, James mentioned, we have 3 transitional facilities right now, serve about 28 guys at a time. The house that we're hoping to construct, we already own the property. This fall will house about 8 more, but James can share more. We're hoping to construct a new campus that will be able to sort of bring all of this under one roof and really increase our capacity.
And in terms of reaching out, and are these individuals involved in some other kind of activity, work-related activity that will not only support them, but would also help to support the facility itself? I mean, what do they do? Certainly they have a program worked out for education and et cetera, but what are some of the other things that they might be able to do to help themselves?
Well, one of the things I'm constantly seeing is people have to be in an environment where they can grow and be the best that they can be. And that's why we're so excited about what we do at Ephesus House. And we're talking about a bigger number of people that we're trying to serve. One of the things we see that happen is when it comes to life skills and what we do right now, it's perfect. And the only thing that we're talking about adding as we add more people to the campus is an apprenticeship program. Because it is true, you don't work, you don't eat. So how do we train and give people life skills, not only life skills, but give them a gift or a trade that they'll be able to fend for themselves. And our goal is hopefully a person can be at Ephesus House for a year and be able to say, hey, I got 2,600 hours in carpentry, or I got 1,900 hours in electrical. And to me, that when you get the man, you not only get him, but you get everything that he comes in contact with. That's his children, that's his wife if he have a wife, or that's his girlfriend. But the key is how do you give him good.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take our first commercial break, and our second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. No, we're all right.
So what's this last segment?
This is 10 minutes. This is your show. I mean, you know, I don't know anything about this. You know,
Okay.
when these folks graduate or get out of here, I mean, do you have a group that are going through, and have you got some folks that call back and say, hey, I got a job and I'm doing, you know, give us some examples that, you know, of some of the folks that are doing whatever y'all are doing.
Yeah.
And you got 28 folks in 3 different buildings
Facilities,
and facilities. How long, what's the general length that they stay there? Do they come out of incarceration, stay there for a few months, and then go out and get a good job or whatever? You know, those are the kind of things that we want to hear. You see, and so, you know, And that's why I want you to tell your story,
Okay.
because you know what, you got some folks that probably came out and working over at NSA, NES, working at different jobs, involved in different kinds of things, and have said certain things about your program and et cetera. Yeah, that kind of,
I gotcha.
Yeah, so you got 10 minutes. And so try to keep that chair
Still.
Yeah, that camera follows that chair. And so, just try to do that. We got 10 minutes, and so we're going to start with, did we start with?
You start with him.
Me last time. So.
Okay, so we're going to start with you. And
Who, me? Cool.
Did we end with you last time?
We started with him.
Okay, but we
ended with
you. Ended with me.
With you. We'll start over here with you.
And
Okay.
the clock isn't as true, so I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
well, you did come out good on that last one.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, after 30 years, I generally come out. I love you. Okay, so we've got 9 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's what we have. And so what I want to know is some of the things that you think people ought to know about your organization and your needs and some of the successes. That kind of information. If you got somebody that went through a carpentry program and they're now working on one of these big buildings that they have around here and et cetera, because Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. JSettles and Mr. Carter Abels. And they're giving us some information in reference to the ability to deal with individuals who are homeless, and especially those individuals who have been incarcerated. Let's see, Mr. Carter Abels, let's see if you might be able to give us some information in reference to some of the things that you like our audience to know about what you're doing. And we'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And then Mr. Settles will have you to build up on what he has to say, and we'll try to go from you to him over the last 10 minutes and give you an opportunity to sort of get out as much information as you possibly can in reference to what the two of you are doing. So let's start off with you, Mr. Davis.
Sure. So one thing I think it's important for people to understand about the work that we do is that a lot of these issues that we're working with are deep-seated. It's not something as simple as housing or jobs, but it's taking a look at each individual person and hearing their story and where they came from and where they're trying to go. I mean, we have guys that come into the program that, their story starts when they're 13, 14 years old, experiencing drugs for the first time, or growing up in broken households that lead them down paths that wind up incarcerated or on the streets. And so one of the things that's really important for us is to work with each guy as an individual and connect him with each service and an opportunity that man needs.
Very good. And of course, you've got many successes that I'm sure since 2003 that you've been able to document during that time. Talk about some of the successes and some of the individuals and some of the challenges that you've had, some of the things that when you go to sleep at night, you think in terms of what you have to do tomorrow. And from that perspective, give us that kind of insight into what goes on there.
Well, one of the things I'm thankful for that Ephesus House provides is an environment that's safe, that's clean, and that's supportive to the client. Even myself, a lot of people may look at me today and look at the glory, but really don't even know the story. I too rode the bus for 6 months and had to start off from being faithful over little and allowing God to place you over much. So I try to take that same application and apply it to the client. And what I find that the client do is the client actually receives it and grow from it. We have several people that not only graduate the program and come back, but these men are just human beings just like anybody else, just made some bad decisions in the future and now are needing to get back centered up. So how do we help the client get centered back up? We've been dealing with an approach of we lock them up and throw away the key, or when people make bad decisions or bad choices, even dealing with drugs, we want to kick them out of the car. But you know, people are worthy of an opportunity, and that's what we want to provide for the client, is an opportunity. And our main hold now is to contact different agencies that will be willing to work with Ephesus House in a program, in an apprenticeship program, giving these guys an opportunity to learn a trade and to be the best that they can be. Because it is true, when you get a guy sober and you put him in an environment where he can grow and be the best that he can be, that employer, he gets a good employee, you know, and hopefully it's something that would not just only start from right there and be something that that client and that employee can have something to smile about as they go in the future.
You know, Mr. Carter, I think you mentioned the fact that you deal quite a bit with grants. What are some of the things that you try to indicate in the grants that you're applying for, and what are some of the responses that you have in reference to the grants? And do you have any idea in terms of looking around at some of the building and some of the all of that activity that's going on here, and to try to buy into that? I think Mr. Settles indicated that you're probably doing that, but talk about it from that perspective. We've got about 5 minutes before we end this show for today, but I'm sure that our audience would be curious in reference to some of the things that, some of the needs that we're talking about here.
Sure. So in any kind of anytime that we approach a funder to try to partner with to accomplish this work, it's really important for us to communicate the need, which I've shared a bit about here. Our capacity to do something about it, which, you know, we feel confident in our ability to really help these guys and get them to the place that they need to be and work with them to do that. And also just, you know, identifying the opportunity for growth, for us to really expand this ministry to do more. So I mentioned, you know, there's such a huge need with so many guys on the streets today and coming out of incarceration. So we have 28 beds. We have over 100 people on our waiting list at all times. I mean, dozens of applications every week that we have to turn away. And so for us right now, a big focus is, you know, how can we build our foundation, make sure we're good, we're continuing to do the work that we can, but how can we take in more? How can we serve more? So one of the things we're really excited about is the growth of a new campus and a new facility, and we want people to participate in that, you know, to buy into it, and as a community rally around these guys. I mean, people can come and be a mentor to these guys. They can come and even teach a class if that's their expertise. You know, they can come engage and rally around these guys. And so that's really what we're looking for.
Well, Mr. Settles, thinking in terms of grants and opportunities, what have you done in reference to reaching out to the state of Tennessee to indicate that they might be able to give you grants in order to help you? Have you thought in terms of getting grants, the federal grants as well as state grants, and what is the state of Tennessee doing in reference to that?
Well, we have reached out to the state and federal, and we get a small contribution from federal and state. But it takes more than federal and state funding. It takes funding from all angles. And when I say all angles, it takes funding from private donors, and we also want to make sure that the client buy into it too. So the client has some kind of responsibility as well. Because one of the things in America is nowhere do you live for free. So one of our things is we try to make sure that the client has a responsibility into being into the program. That means he has to give something, because when he leaves Ephesus House, he's going to have to pay rent somewhere. So we want to do this thing where the foundation is right for everybody.
So in a real sense, they live there rent-free and without any kind of compensation from them in terms of helping you to move your organization forward. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, but that may be initially. But see, our goal is how do we take a client that comes to Ephesus House with nothing and help that client establish a foundation where that client is a tax-paying citizen and he's also participating in paying where he lives.
And so it gives them an opportunity to demonstrate the success of this program by giving back to the program. And while you got 28 individuals there, these individuals, once they are there for a while, will have an opportunity to assist the organization in terms of what you're all trying to do. Each person in a real sense represents an individual who can reach out in order to support your program. Is that what we're saying?
That is correct. That is correct.
Now, Mr. Carter, what are some of the last statements? We've got about 50 seconds here. What are some of the last statements that you'd like to leave with our audience this morning in reference to what you're doing here?
Sure. Well, thank you again for having us. And we're excited with what we're doing. And we want to encourage anyone who might be watching to participate in this work. It's so important. Feel free to call our office, go to our website, and get involved. And on a personal